Good day all, welcome back to South Africa, and this is South African Prepper. So I want to talk to you about two things. One is the Ukrainian war, and then a second thing is just a general warning for my fellow South Africans. So as we're sitting here the 5th of February 2023, you can actually see that the Ukrainian front lines are busy crumbling. Now, I think that the West, and that includes NATO, Ukraine themselves, and in America, actually misread the objectives of Russia. So one of the objectives Putin clearly stated during December 2022 is that they would like to crush or liquidate or cancel the Ukrainian army. So when the Ukraine army actually advances, you will see this in the Western news, because then according to them they are winning. But as we're sitting here, you can see massive breakthroughs from the Russian side. And one of the objectives, like I said, for the Russian army is to destroy the Ukrainian army. They do not care about gaining ground. They're literally waiting for the Ukrainians, because the Ukrainian strategy is to keep every single square meter that they can keep. They will try and keep, even if it costs hundreds of thousands of soldiers' lives. So I've noticed that the tactical advancements of the Russians are extremely good. I've also noticed that the way they operate, things like they've got trackers on certain units on the Russian side knows exactly where the other units are, while on the other side of Ukraine, they are actually lacking in certain technology. So we can see that the Russian army is working with a plan. They are working with a strategy, and they have got advanced weapons that we have not seen in a modern war up until this specific war. So we are definitely shifting into a new era of warfare. If you're talking about Iraq, Afghanistan, Yemen, Syria, even, and I'm going to be thrashed for this, even the Angola border war, those are old, very old ways of warfare. We are seeing a total new way of warfare in the world. And this should be a big red flag for you, because the equipment that these guys are using, we have not seen before. And I do believe that Russia has not even taken out the bigger and the badder things. We are yet to see them really gearing up. And we are waiting for a massive offense. They reckon something in the order of 300 to 500,000 Russian trained soldiers going into Ukraine sometime in the next 2 or 3 months. So they're sitting with a massive humanitarian problem, because out of the 35 million Ukrainian citizens that were living in Ukraine before the war, about 10 million are being displaced. Now, I do know that about 2.5 million went to Russia. Can you believe it? So you're sitting with about 8 million that needs to be absorbed into the rest of Europe. That's a humanitarian catastrophe. The other danger that we're sitting with is that on the Polish-Ukrainian border, you're sitting with hardware from NATO. You're sitting with soldiers from NATO. Anything from Polish soldiers to American soldiers. And you're hearing rumors about British, American soldiers being killed in Ukraine. So it's definitely escalating. And then coming to the South African situation, you do know that the South African government is doing a war exercise, or a military exercise, with the Chinese and the Russians. So there are two factions within the ruling party. The one is the RET faction. They are pro-Russia, pro-China. And then you've got the, let's call it the liberal side, the Western side, which is the Cyril Ramaphosa side, the current president. Okay, so these factions are literally pulling the rope, okay, because they all want power. So whilst this military exercise is taking place on the KZN coast, America then also sent a representative to the President of South Africa, because it is all about world powers, and the world powers are really busy changing and shifting around. So in South Africa, you need to be aware of this, because it's going to have an extremely big impact on the coming elections. Okay, these two factions are consistently pulling the rope, trying to gain and regain the power and keep the power. So there's an old saying, don't give a man a fish, teach a man to fish. So part of preparedness is you need to be able, okay, to catch the fish. You need to be able to look after your own family in the coming days. This is South African Prepper. God bless.